Alright, a wonderful good day everybody and welcome back to my channel. It has been a couple of very busy weeks, a lot of stuff going on. It all culminated into yesterday where my cat went up a tree like 20 meters high and we could get her down and she was scared as fuck. So due to that and all the other things that had been going on, I wasn't really able to record a video. I actually made a video in between, but that was mute, which was really sad because it was an awesome video. And just to showcase what I was doing in that video, because it was a little bit different, I just want to show you one card that I think we haven't seen on the channel yet, and that's Anathemancer. This is a card that in a time where your 4C decks play Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon and so on, and where you really can't interact with your opponent on a Blood Moon basis, and of course we also can really facilitate the Blood Moon. But Anathemancer is a card that really slots into our deck pretty well, and most of the time in the mid to late game deals like between 6 and 10 damage. And especially against decks like if you were having issues with 4C creativity, 4C control as well, not so much the Omnath lists, it can work there as well, but you of course have to keep Omnath off the battlefield due to the life gain. But other than that, this card really does like 2 to 3 bolts, sometimes even more when it comes down, and the Unearth ability is even uncounterable because it's an ability. They would have to have a counter for abilities to prevent it. So you'll get in an additional damage from the graveyard down the road. And during that league, not many have seen it because it was mute, but Ace does. So I think I killed like a 4C Scapeshift player with it, a 4C Creativity player with it. And those are all matchups that are typically very, very difficult to win right now, due to the fact that these decks are very interactive, have a lot of value, and ramp at the same time. And this card really closes out the game really fast. And I think you should try it out if you have issues with those types of decks, because especially the 4C creativity decks that are running around everywhere right now, they are typically shocking a lot and are going down to 14 or 12 sometimes by themselves before they get an Archeon down. And so you just have to prevent it once basically, and then like bolt him once, play an Anathemancer, and you got him. So yeah, just that as a quick hint. But I don't want to repeat the league. We've moved on. We're also in preparation. Currently the Copenhagen GP is running, which was interesting, and then a couple of weeks I'm going to Paris, so we're doing something somewhat new. So first of all, Spell Pierce in the main board remained, but in comparison to the last league where I went more in the mid-range direction, I now go back into the control direction, but leaving Spell Pierce in, leaving Terminate in, going back to Hall of Storm Giants, leaving Crux out, and also I added Subtlety. I think Subtlety in a lot of matchups where we currently have to switch from control to a tempo deck in between, or have to make some tempo plays, Subtlety is very decently situated. Also, it doesn't take away too much of what I want to be doing with the deck anyway, and therefore it warrants that additional cryptic slot and the Tasker slot that I utilized for it beforehand. In regards to the sideboard, I think Dottie is currently just one of the best sideboard cards in Magic or in Modern, especially paired with like a Thoughtseize, where you can get big stuff, Emrakuls or Titans or whatever, and just play them yourself. And then of course there's Torak, which is also a good card against anything that's running white. And we're playing a couple of Hidetsugu, so the sideboard isn't fleshed out 100%. I just wanted to have something against, especially constructs and a little bit of land hate. Alright, that's it for the deck tech. Let's jump into a league. Alright, welcome to round number 1. We're playing against Artem Kutin, who I believe is a somewhat successful MTGO grinder. We're gonna keep and see what our opponent is doing. Mulligan down to 5. Pretty aggressive. But if it's a Tron or a living end deck, it doesn't really matter. Yep. Can't really prevent that. So if our opponent's playing Jund, then he really needs to have a turn 2. Yeah, alright. So that makes me think that he does have a turn 2 red and 6 that he wanted to protect here. And probably does have it. Retard card. Yeah. I can't really do anything against it or about it. I'll have to bold it here to get it off the table at some point. That will give us bolts, snappies, and K commands as an out. As well as, of course, the 2 blood chasers that we're playing anyway. Okay, that's interesting. Okay. Well, for a 5-card hand, that one was pretty decent. So I probably won't be doing a whole lot here. Just utilizing that Urza's Saga. But we need to get rid of the Ren and 6 before he can get back the Urza's Saga from the graveyard. That's the most important thing here. Well, that didn't work. Nope, that didn't work out at all. So, but what we can do... Oh, I mean, he does have the other thing in hand as well. So I currently cannot bounce. Like, I can bounce at end of turn. I guess if he activates here, he probably... Let me see if I can find a bolt here. I think that's still my best option. Because with the Cryptic Command, I currently can't really do a whole lot. I just want to get rid of that fucking Ren and 6 before we can get that Saga down. There we go. Alright. So in terms of tempo, we're A little bit behind. Hopefully he doesn't have another Ren 6 now. Oh, come on! Motherfucker. Fucking retarded card. Well, at least he couldn't play it this turn. So, let's see. So I cannot utilize both Terminates here. Probably just gonna play the Xander's Launch. And we need to find K command at some point. Okay. Alright. Did you? Yeah, he had already played one. I could have done that earlier. Okay, so now we can keep Ren and 6 off the board, which is important. I have to kill probably both of the constructs this turn, which is possible as well. He will want to use the Ursa Saga, and then we have the Hall of Storm Giants up next turn, which will prevent him from attacking with additional copies. Ban this Ren and 6 fucking shithole of a card. So the good thing is our opponent's also on 13 already, due to all the fetching. Which means we can potentially also get him into a direction or into a spot where Hall of Storm Giants should be decent. Alright, so we're not going to go with the Seasoned Pyromancer this turn. I can also try to steal a Saga token. Oh, it's even shocking. Interesting. So, Lightning Bolt plus Hall of Storm Giants is lethal. Let's see. Alright, yeah, we're gonna gain control here. Although I could, of course, also try to just block it, but then he'll be able to replay. Goif. So that means that he definitely does have the Ren 6 backup, right? So what's more important now? So both the spell bomb and the Ren and 6 can get rid of my construct. And it's a 6/7, so only my terminates get rid of it. So, and of course the Bloodshea Thirsts. But he'll maybe have to fetch shock here. He's already played a forest. Okay, yeah, perfect. So, do I want to have one more red? Yeah, probably. Can even go with a Blood Crypt here. I think I'm just gonna play it. So what I have to be careful about is the fact that he could have, like, if I fetch here, he could have a lightning bolt and then it's just lethal with a pirate spellbomb. But I probably also need 2 more cards. Because I need a removal spell, yeah. Let's play this for emergency cases. Alright. So we could, of course, try to counter the Ren and 6. It's a Tireless Tracker. Or the Tireless Tracker. Because then he'll have to target himself, which at least gets rid of the Urza Saga. And frees up potential Snapcaster Mages. It doesn't even do it. So it really wants to have that Saga back, right? Do you have another Thoughtseize? Alright, so he has the Bolt. Yeah. But he needs 2 red, right? So now it's irrelevant. Because he gets me to 3 anyway. If he wants to. And I need a removal spell to have lethal here. Or to force him to utilize the bolt that he has. Alright. So I do have a removal spell. Let's see if it's enough. So you can use the Pirate Spellbomb, but I have to force the issue here, I think. Or do I? I mean, if I don't put lethal, yeah. I just have to hope that he doesn't have a bolt. There's no way around it. Because he can't put me down with the Ren and 6. But now you're done. Lol, dude. Lol, what? What the fuck did you do? Why did you play it that way? Okay. That was weird. That was so weird. So I want to have the Alpine Moons. The spell pierces. Let's see. Actually quite insane that we got there. I I think maybe I want to have the spell pierces. Maybe we're going super low to the ground. One spell pierce. That should be good, right? So I definitely want to have the Seasoned Pyromancer. I think the subtlety is decent. K command is decent too. Yeah, let's go with this. I could also play the Hitatsugu TBH. Because that gets rid... They also play the Ragavan, I think. So... But of course, Hitsuyo bites the Alpine Moons to a certain degree. Our opponent's playing Boseiju, though. No, I think I'm just gonna go with this first. Could also be thinking about the Torak. So hand's not super bad, but hand's also not super great. Our opponent kept 7. I feel like I should be mulliganing this. Although we have quite a few avenues from here. And we don't really need a whole lot of mana. We have a lot of removal spells, but I'm gonna mulligan. Yeah, feeling more comfortable with this, I think. And we're gonna get rid of the Terminate. Alright, so this also means that our opponent cannot play a turn 2 Ren and 6. Which is good. Interesting. So I would have liked to go with a Scalding Tarn into Xander's Launch there, but I think if I can get rid of a Tarmogoyf here with a failed push, that's just a lot better in terms of tempo, because then I have Drown Loch up. I think I'm gonna go with a Polluted Delta here, so that I can evade. I mean, it's very unlikely that our opponent's playing something like Blood Moon or Magus of the Moon, but in these times, you never know. Terminate. Do I want to terminate right now? I mean, we know he's also playing Talos Tracker, so it could be decent. Because then I don't have to utilize my Drown Loch. Oh, there's another Drown, okay. Alright, so we got past the initial couple of turns without a Ren 6 hitting the board, which is already pretty decent. Now we just need to find K commands, Snapcaster Mages, or Seasoned Pyromancers. And I don't think I'm gonna fetch here. Our opponent could also play something like Boil. There's a Seasoned Pyromancer, which I think is very good to have. I do want to have a couple more lands though. So I think the Urza's version is not playing Riveteer's Charm. He's only got one green source. Yeah, let me let that through. there's a Ren at 6, right? Oh, yeah, that's fine. That's your play, that's absolutely okay. Because I do have a Terminate for you. So I don't really need more blue because I boarded out most of it. So I think I'm just going to go with a Blood Crypt here. Could of course go with the Season Pyromancer. But as long as there's no Urza Saga, I think we're in a decent position. Alright, yeah. Alright. So also, with all the lands that our opponent already does have, oh, this is actually a decent card that I can play end of turn, so that our opponent... Okay, so he keeps the Verdant Catacombs on. Do I want to play it? So our opponent could be playing Boil. If he does, then we're probably fucked. Let's see. Last card in our opponent's hands, probably a Ren and 6. That he just, you know, refused to play before he has, yeah. That was expected. Alright, cool. So we've gotten rid of all of it. He's certainly just going to utilize the Season Pyromancer next turn, unless he does have a K command at the top. I think I'm going to go ahead and in his draw step, I'm going to return the Snapcaster with a K command. And then next turn, we can draw into another land to play out the Season Pyromancer. Either drawing it naturally or off the Season Pyromancer, so that we have drawn lock up. Let's see. Alright, so that worked out. It was another Ren and 6. So our opponent only does have Season Pyromancer plus Shadow Spear right now, which I don't really care about. Yeah, he wants to equip the Shadow Spear here, which is absolutely fine. And then we're just going to kill that thing. Oh, there's a Dottie. I think I'm actually, like, I do prefer a Dottie here over the Season Pyromancer, because our opponent could also be playing something like Troxite, etc. So, yep, that's fine. We're taking those two. And then I'm going to kill it with Blood Cheesers next turn. Alright, there's a land as well. Alright, now we're finally finding some lands, and now that we have a little bit of pressure on the board, I'm not so pressured to get the Seasoned Pyromancer down. So I can make a couple of value plays here instead. Bobble, I don't care. The only thing that's still an issue for us, I think, unless our opponent gets us with something like Boil, would be Norse's Saga, but now it might also be just too late. I'm gonna play out this Snapcaster Mage here for an additional couple of damage and a free card. Our opponent does have something big, apparently. Oh, there's another one. That's also good. Oh, that's also a very good draw. Alright. It's not getting easier for our opponent. So we still have counter magic. Dottie's back up, and we have a K command. And of course, Seasoned Pyromancer still has backup. Oh, Ragavan. So I'm not going to counter it. I'm going to go ahead, let it resolve. He might even want to equip the Shadow Spear. Yeah. The only thing that I want to do is return and destroy. So this way, I mean, my opponent could, of course, have something like a Veil of Summer to protect the Ragavan, but I won't be completely blown out here. And if he doesn't have a follow-up play, which he doesn't, then I just have Drown and Saltiat, and next turn even Hall of Storm Giants, so yeah, very, very little that our opponent can do from here. Alright. Do you have another removal spell? Apparently, yes. So now I think the last card in his hand might just be dead. So we're expanding our resources here, and if he does have something else, then I can just play the Seasoned Pyromancer. And he certainly won't be able to do it then after that one. Alright, GG's. So our opponent definitely misplayed game one. I think he had a couple of other lines available there. But yeah. Alright, welcome to round number 2. We are on the draw again. Hands quite alright. My girlfriend, as you could see, is apparently just starting to play Farthest Frontier. while I'm recording here. So we're gonna keep... let's see what we're playing against. Music's Rainforest. Okay. Alrighty. So what we want to prevent is definitely turn 2 Grist. So we're gonna get rid of this. Also, our opponent did fetch for a basic forest. So potentially, alright, does have a Twilight Mire. And no follow-up play, which is interesting. So then we have some amount of counter magic here to prevent whatever he's going to be doing. If he just passes here, alright, then that's very indicative of him playing Endurance. So I'm gonna counter this. I want to keep the Drown Loch up just in case I want to utilize it later on for removal. And for this matchup, so generally speaking, Jawkmoth is not one of our best matchups because Grist, or like the Undying creatures, are just very bad in terms of trading 1-for-1, of course. And then there's Grist, which is just a value engine. So even if you can't prevent the combo, most of the time you're gonna run out of options really quickly. So I'm gonna let this resolve because he's already on some amount of mana. So I could, he could go 1, 2, 3, 4. So for X equaling 1, but I think I'm just gonna kill it with a Terminate here. So that Court of Calling is a little bit more. Or do I even want to kill it? Let's see. I think it's fine if I shock here. I'm gonna go with the blue-black so that I have Terminate still up as well as Drown Loch. Okay, so with the Snapcaster as a backup, I think I'm feeling comfortable to expand the resource here to restrict our opponent's mana a little bit. Also, of course, Wall of Roots itself. If we hadn't drawn Brazen Bar, it's just very difficult to get damage through. And each point of damage matters in this matchup, as that's an activation that Jawkmoth cannot do. So this is X equals 2. I think I'm just gonna play a Brazen Bar right here to get some damage in and force our opponent to do something. Season Pyromancer, not yet relevant. I just want to get some damage in. And of course, you could have an Endurance here. I think they're playing one main at the very least. But, yeah. Alright, just looking for a couple more things to do. So it's possible that we have to be playing around an Endurance at some point. So maybe I want to go with the Drown Loch now, so that I have a backup counterspell in case there's an Endurance coming, rather than spending my counterspell right now and then at a different point in time I want to go with a Drown. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, let's counter this. I mean, he doesn't have the mana for Endurance right now, so we're just gonna go with this and then kill the Dryad Hour. Unless he has another Eldritch Evolution. That would, of course, 2-for-1 him as well. Alright, Bloodshy Thirst. Can kill a Jawkmoth, so that's fine as well. And without, like, that's why I'm going after his mana source, is because that basically restricts him to his own turn. Card of Calling for 1 isn't really worth it for our opponent at this point, and probably I wouldn't even counter it, but our opponent needs to get down like a Grist or a Jawkmoth. I think Wall of Roots I can just let resolve here. What does he do with 3 green? Must have been something wrong with the Twilight Mire. Oh, it does have another Eldritch Evolution. Alright, yeah, then I think we have you. Because now I can counter that. And then we attack for 5 twice, and even a Grist won't stop it. And also Yawgmoth doesn't do a whole lot at that point. And we even have another Snapcaster. So pretty decent draws here from that position. There's a Grist. I mean, our opponent also didn't have a bad draw, not at all. But him not being able to have a turn 2 play really got us the time that we needed. So I want to have the Dotties. Spell Pierce is very bad in this matchup. I probably want to have the Failed Pushes and also the Thoughtseize. Could even be thinking about a Torak. We have to get rid of... So I think this is pretty bad. I don't want to have this. So the Brazen Bar, generally speaking, it can't fly over most of what our opponent does, and we can bounce like a Grist, etc. So it's not too bad either. I think I want to cut 1 Kolaghan's Command. Subtlety is in the main deck, especially because these types of creature decks are where Subtlety shines, so I want to keep that in. Question is, do I want to have Hidetsugu as well? Especially on the draw, when my opponent might be coming up with a turn 2 Grist, so that I can clean it up at some point. But Hidetsugu is not really great unless it's coupled with a Dottie as well, or my opponent has a lot of small stuff on the battlefield that I typically have to get rid of anyway. So I could get like cut 2 of these. They're also not really great here. Let's see. So the only interactive spell that we have with the graveyard right now is Snapcaster Mage, really, and Kolaghan's to a certain degree. So I think hit 2 is fine. Bloodshea Thirst. Is it enough? It's a pretty slow hand overall. I mean, we have to consider... And of course we have the Snapcasters. I think I'm going to keep... Our opponent was also thinking about this quite a bit, so... We're on the draw. An additional land source or any removal spell should be decent. And we should be able to prevent the turn 2 Grist, which is what we want to do anyway. And then from here, we'll have to see. All right. So next turn we have the Snapcaster as well as a counterspell up. All comes down to whether or not our opponent does have a Grist or a Yawgmoth here. Interesting. So either a Chord or an Endurance, right? Not much else makes sense. Alright, it's a Chord. Just for 2. Or did he miscount? I'm not sure. So we could, of course, just pass here because our opponent wouldn't receive priority anymore. Then he wouldn't be able to do it after the fact. I'm going to ditch that because our opponent, if he wants to do something, is probably going to do it right now. Yeah, did have an Endurance. So that was kind of expected. So we're taking 4 turn here. Snapcaster Mage to a certain degree. Well, there's Subtlety, which certainly is good. But we'll have to bounce the Endurance and then... Okay. So we're taking 4. I think, okay, he's not even doing anything here. So pretty sure that our opponent does have another Chord, or a Chord at all. Like he even tapped the creatures, so the last card has to be a Chord. I don't think you can just tap creatures otherwise. And of course he wants to Chord for 4. So I'm gonna bounce this. This way he won't be able to play it 1 to 3 and then Chord for a Yawgmoth. Because that's just 3, yeah. And now I can kill it, which is neat. So I don't have to utilize the Subtlety here. And also... I have a couple of targets for the Snapcaster, which is good as well. And if our opponent doesn't do anything, then we can just deploy the Brazen Bora. That will also be a possibility. So I want to give my opponent the opportunity to attack with the Endurance. Before he does anything else. Alright, now he's getting rid of that one. So now he's got 1, 4, 5, 6, 7. If attacks with this one, he has to maintain all the others untapped. Oh, let's see. It's gonna be interesting. All right. Oh, schools is actually pretty decent. So, how does our opponent, like, if he does have another land, he needs to have another untapped land source to go for Grist. But I kind of need to stop this. Because otherwise that thing goes out of control. I could, of course, also just subtlety here. And keep the counterspell up. Then I only have one Snapcaster, and the subtlety, of course, isn't on the battlefield, which is also pretty shit for me. But there's no way that our opponent can get a Yawgmoth out, right? Unless he's drawn one, which I have to prevent. No, I can still counter the Yawgmoth with the subtlety, so I think that's fine. Because then afterwards I still have the snap counterspell. Yeah, that's pretty annoying. That is pretty annoying. Alright, so I think we have to subtlety here, but the issue is that if I'm gonna do that, then next turn... Yeah, I think I have to buy that one, though. But then he cannot play that. Okay, so I'm buying myself another turn here. Endurance probably one of the best cards that you could have possibly drawn off the top there. Although there would have been a couple, like Gris would have been equally bad. Would have had to subtlety that one as well. And you put it on top, which makes sense. So now with the Dottie, Yawgmoth isn't as good anymore, but Grist is. He's got the endurance on top. And this clearly indicates that he wants to play the endurance instead of the Court of Calling, right? Because now he only has the Grist mana for the Court. And that means that I think I'm gonna go with the Brazen Ball right here, just to have it on the battlefield, although... Yeah, he's thinking about it. Alright. Well, it's not perfect. Definitely not. Yeah, it does it in my upkeep here. Okay. I mean, we knew it. It was just endurance there twice that really gave us an issue. But this now actually could spell an issue for our opponent. So my opponent has to kill the Dottie. So I won't attack with it. I will just attack with the other two. And that will cost him at least 3 life. He won't be able to counter the whole Storm Giants unless he sacrifices like 2 others and then goes with the Wolf. And that might mean that he has to block the whole Storm Giants. We're probably gonna get something, maybe even endurance out of the Dottie. Okay. Let's see. Alright. It does have a Grist as well. So I have to let this resolve actually, because otherwise alright, so now I can do this. Should I have attacked? Maybe I should have. Maybe that would have been better. Let's see. We're taking 4, 5, 6. No, we're dead. Okay. Alright, yeah, the Grist was pretty decent there. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe I should have attacked with the Dottie as well. But overall, I think I was pretty happy with our lineup here. I could even, honestly, I think I'm gonna go like this. Just gonna cut the Snapcaster Mages entirely. Because, like, you will never be able to attack with them. The graveyard's just, like, going over the graveyard with our opponent being able to fetch 4 endurance. It's just so bad. Okay, we're on the play, so I think I can keep this. I think the Scalding Tarn wants to be a Steam Vents. And then we have a couple of options for killing stuff. We're trying to find one of our 3 Itsugus. Yeah, gotta ditch that. Okay, we did find something else. Alright, so Hitotsugu off the top. Sadly, no. Let's have a look. So both are pretty annoying. But I think I still want to go with the Young Wolf, with the Crest, of course. That will leave up enough mana for my opponent to play Endurance, though. I could counter the Young Wolf, but maybe the other way around is better. Maybe I want my opponent to play the Grixis into Drown Loch to be tapped out. But that would be too obvious, probably. And we can take 1 or 2 damage turn for a bit, I think. I really don't want to expand my removal spells on either of these. Hit me baby one more time. Because at some point we will have a Hitotsugu. Hopefully. So for this turn, I'm just going to wait and see. Our opponent attacked, so there's definitely no Core of Calling. Alright, so this is the opportunity to cast Subtlety, which our opponent should not be able to counter even if he does have a Veil of Summer. And then we know, I put it on the bottom. Is there a Grist? Oh, come on, dude. What the fuck? What the actual fuck? Dude, what the fuck? Yeah, wow. That's really annoying. That's incredibly annoying. Alright, so on the plus side, Lightning Bolt, K-Command, Hitotsugu. There are a lot of good cards here that we can roll. And we also know that the last card, like you put it back, so this is... No, I have to do it. Alright, so just a land for our opponent here. So we know that the last card in his hand is also lands. I think I'm gonna get rid of that one right now, because that really annoys me. And we have the Drown Loch. But you can fetch the Misty Rainforest for a Dried Arbor, I guess, to keep attacking for 2, which he doesn't do. Blood Artist. I don't think this warrants my my Drown Loch. I think I'm just gonna terminate it. Take 1, take 2. This turn, which I would have anyway if he fetched for the Arbor there. And then, yeah, we're really just all looking for an Hitotsugu, I think. Because if we get that, then the best card that our opponent can draw is a Grist. And we can deal with the grist through subtlety even. So that would be decent. Alright, so finally we can get our subtlety down without being threatened by something else. Puts it on top. So we probably will have to deal with that one as well next turn. So I'm gonna leave my Xenos launch up because he hasn't a Yawgmoth. Oh, fuck my life. Anyway, I think we're just gonna keep it back right now. I just don't want to be hit. I don't think I'm gonna fetch anymore. Like, those are black sources, which is fine as well. Okay, great. Alright, a young wolf. Come on, deck. Anything but a land, please. Please, anything but a land. Please, 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 please. I guess the Boseiju is still... Oh, come on, you got to be fucking shitting me, man. Yeah, alright, so, I don't know. From here, it's gonna be an uphill battle. Okay, so this at least gives me the chance to bounce my subtlety if necessary. But it's another land. I think that's the like 5th land or something that we drew in a row. So I'll keep the Brazen Burrow back until the end of my opponent's turn, if he doesn't do anything beforehand. To then be able to bounce something. Or do I? So he'll still be able to go with the cord if he does have one. I don't think that's good enough right now. What the fuck is going on here? I do not have, like, there's the only card that I've left that I can actually fetch is a fucking Xenos launch. Maybe I need to Thoughtseize here, actually. That will force my opponent to play Chord of Calling, of course. Which is also bad. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. He shocked Overgrown Tomb there. So it's very possible that my opponent does have an Endurance in hand as well. I think we're gonna Thoughtseize right now, because our situation isn't improving, really. Have to hope that we can escape a Chord of Calling here. If not, then we're probably fucked. That's actually quite insane. Alright, there's a chord. It's unreal. It's really unfucking real. I mean, we can bounce it, so that's that, I guess. He will, of course, do shit beforehand. Fucking unreal. We haven't drawn a single Dori or a single Hidetsugu. Fucking insane. Or a counterspell here, for that matter. We even had 3 counterspells left. And to drown, this was really, really unfortunate. That's interesting. That is interesting, though. So we're definitely taking that one. Alright, that's a Torak, which by itself is pretty decent. So let's try to bounce that thing, so that we can potentially get it off the battlefield for good. Yeah, he can eat whatever he wants here. I don't really mind that. We don't play Snapcasters anymore, so our graveyard is basically, like, aside from the Kolaghan's Command, which I think there's only maybe even none left. Yeah, there's none left, so we don't have any more graveyard interaction, so that's fine. Alright. So that's gone. Now we can finally do this. We hit the Scavenging Ooze, which is great. We have a good blocker. We can finally attack with the Subtlety to lower his life total. The Blood Artist is already in the bin, so he has to have a Yawgmoth right now, I think. I mean, Grist would also be good, but not game losing. League good, probably. Alright, Wall of Omens, nothing. Alright, perfect. So, just one more playable card of the top. Either there's Subtlety or a Hidetsugu is also great. Because that gets rid of all the creatures. Then we can attack. Of course, the Wall of Roots can block the Turak. So, probably won't attack with that one. Yeah, don't talk to me, man. We've drawn dead for, I don't know, 10 turns. Alright, so these two come in for 6. And this also means, like, the Hidetsugu here means that a Grist off the top won't be lethal anymore, even if it's ultimates. And you also shouldn't have access to more Bosejus anymore. So yeah. GG. So our opponent's apparently trying to write something. Or once, I don't know. I'll stop the video here. I'll inform you whether or not there's been something that has been said. Alright, welcome to round number 3. We're on the play. And although this hand's a little bit awkward, I think we'll keep... On the draw, this is definitely a chip, but we don't have any more cryptics that we can draw into, so everything from here, every spell is going to be more efficient. And with Subtlety or whatever, we can even utilize this if it's too slow. So just fresh out of the press, some of you might have already seen it. There has been a spoiler leak for Dominaria United. I'm sorry for that. And alright, so let's see if he's gonna take the Lightning Bolt. Then it's probably a rock deck that we're playing against here. Yeah. And is either going for a Ragavan here turn 2 or a Dottie, both of which are probably problematic for us. Also, we might have to fetch for basics here. We shall see. So Dominaria United spoilers have been leaked, and I've seen one card that I'm very interested in, and that is Eratari or something like that. It's a 3/2 black-blue flash creature for 4 mana that can either counter target spell or ability or destroy a creature or planeswalker. So it's super versatile. It does have a downside though, and that downside is that and that's not great. The downside is that your opponent gets to draw a card, or the person that controls the spell, ability, creature, or planeswalker does get to draw a card. So, alright, so our opponent doesn't even do anything here. I think I'm just gonna fetch for a basic to try and circumvent a potential Blood Moon or whatever. And then we can, so we only drew lands, which is of course unfortunate, but we can draw an additional card with the Sandals Launch, which we probably don't need here. Yeah, so that card is not necessarily, oh, interesting. Let's see what we're playing against. Dude, what? We haven't drawn a single non-land card yet. We've drawn like, had three draw steps plus an additional draw. What? So yeah, it's possible that our opponent is playing 4C or 3C. Yeah. Creativity here. I think I'm gonna go, because he didn't fetch for green, so I don't have to play around. Ren 6 here. I just pitch, bounce the thing so that we get a little bit ahead on tempo here, because we need to find a couple more spells in the meantime. And if I just counter there, our opponent can still go off, so it's not really worth it. Yeah, alright, so it's creativity. We have to be a little bit conscious of playing around stuff like Spell Pierce, which is also one of the reasons why I wanted to have that additional mana in hand. Yeah, so it's not a card that provides card advantage most of the time, although you can also do it for yourself, for your own stuff. But on the flip side, it is just so versatile. Like, it's such a great tempo play. It deals with basically everything, and I think that's pretty good. That's really, like, yeah. So yeah, we shall see. I think I do have 2 slots for that card in my deck. So of course our opponent does know about our Cryptic, so he won't go unless he does have multiple answers here. And I don't understand why we're drawing so many lands here. It's a little bit unfortunate. But as long as our opponent can't do anything to play around that Cryptic command, that's fine. Alright, so our opponent has just lost connection to the game, but he will probably rejoin. So I'll pause here and get back when our opponent's back. Alright, our opponent rejoined the game. It didn't take too long. Probably still loading MTGO, but he's already here again. So let's see. Yeah, we don't have a whole lot of cards that we can still fetch here. It's actually insane. 4, 10, 12 out of 17. Alright, Spell Pierce actually isn't a bad thing here. Obviously, sooner or later, we will have to find a solution to the dwarves. But as for now, I'll take a couple more hits. Solitude, by the way, also a very, very good card here in the matchup. Alright, so I think with our opponent just targeting 1 here, I'm just gonna go terminate, because that leaves open the most options for the future. There's another Spell Pierce, so we should, and our opponent doesn't have another land drop, so from here we really just need to find, okay, there's another land drop. So that's problematic because at some point I'll have to go after the dwarves, because our opponent's also playing lightning bolts. Let's see. I'll wait one more turn. Okay, there's a Brazen Bora. So I got 4, 2, 2. That's good. I can get rid of 1. So I just take 2, go down to 7. And then I'm still fine with like 2 bolts. Our opponent's also playing Tainted Indulgence. Archon into the graveyard. 1, 2, just counting the number. Okay, so interesting. Draws 2, discards 2. I think I want to counter this, right? I'll give him an additional mana source, and he can try to find more Thought Seizes. I think I want to Spell Pierce here. And then if he doesn't want to go for it, he just has 1 black source, that's also a reason. So it can bounce 1. He's got 1 black source, so even if he goes for Persist, he currently cannot cast a second Persist or something similar. And I still have 5 mana for Cryptic and Spell Pierce. Alternatively, I can even protect my Brazen Bora coming down. And any Lightning Bolt is already lethal if my opponent fetches 1 more time. Yep, I cannot do anything against that right now. Oh, Emrakul. Well, that at least gets rid of his entire graveyard, which means that Persist is nothing anymore. Alright, Counterspell is a good draw. But I just want to see his fucking Snapcaster Mage or a K Command. Either one of those would be very decent. So I'm gonna wait until the end of turn as I'm not falling below 6 or below 7 right now. So equal 6 or less. And that could of course be the final dwarf. But I really need to find a thread here. Right, there's a snap. All right. So I didn't flash the Snapcaster in end of turn because I expect my opponent A to have still a removal spell and B also to play 4 Dwarven Mines and therefore being able to block my Snapcaster if he wants to. But he has to be careful right now. So I think I have to clear the board anyway, right? If I go with Snap, Terminate, then I still have both, but I cannot play around the Spell Pierce. So I guess Snap Bolt is still the play here. And then if he wants to get rid of my Snapcaster, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I still have Counterspell up even after I activate the whole. Alright, opponent conceded. So I want to have Dories, I want to have Thoughtseize, and I could even play Alpine Moon because that restricts my opponent's capabilities of really being able to fetch for dwarves. So I probably want to get rid of this. I want to get rid of this. Cryptic Command. Our opponent's playing too much interaction here. Terminate, go. And then we're already at 61. I think I want to play one Chorak for situations where I really can get my opponent. The K command's probably fine. 61 on the draw. Yeah, I think that's okay. We've reduced our SCMC here by a couple. Yeah, I think I can keep this. Our opponent's not playing Ren 6, I believe, which is typically the card that we have to watch out for here in these matchups. Alright. A ley line. Obviously quite potent, but not as bad as one might think. It's basically only getting our Snapcasters. And we can even bounce it, like we have Otawara even in hands, that's fine. Let's see. So first and foremost, we're looking for lands. I'd also be looking for Dories, but time's already running out for those ones. No, let's keep that one. Oh yeah, that's also really good. I can also bounce the thing. 4 even. Ooh. And this is exactly why Ren 6 like is the most important card in this kind of matchup, because these types of decks really need, like, really rely on continuous land drops. You have to combo turn 4, otherwise, you know, things are going south. Let's bounce this shit right now, see what our opponent does, because he's otherwise could be taking my spell pierce anyway. Alright, and this is probably gonna go for a Water Grave. Or would I rather have a Steam Vents here? Probably Steam Vents. So I have access to Lightning Bolt as well. And then we have a threat on the battlefield. We can get rid of the ley lines, so our Snapcasters are active again. Our opponent doesn't have the mana to redeploy it, and we have a couple of counter spells. So overall, I think we're in a pretty good spot. And he's gotten rid of the K command, which is also weird. But maybe he, you know, does have one removal spell for the Brazen Bora and nothing else. That's a very distinct possibility. So maybe I'm just not gonna go with the Brazen Bora just yet. I'm gonna wait one more turn so I can protect it. Turek is something for down the line. Alright, so our opponent cast the ley line. Yeah, that's fine. That was just tempo play anyway. Also, even my Snapcaster Mage now does have a couple of targets, so that's fine. Alright, one more Black Source and we can deploy the Torak. And also, we'll have access to Hall of Storm Giants at that point. So we're taking a couple again, because for my opponent it becomes exponentially more expensive. Not exponentially, but, you know, it's a linear curve. But for each target that he needs to protect, it becomes more expensive. So he has less options. And we're pretty flexible with the Lightning Bolt and now also with the K command in terms of that. And I can also go like end of turn, K command, kill something, destroy or discard, which is also decent. Alright, so let's see. We're killing one of them. Our opponent can only have like one blue counterspell or whatever. There's an Archon that he might actually also want to get into the graveyard. Can't tell for certain. And then our opponent goes down to 8. And we can play the Dottie, so that means next turn we have actually lethal, even without Halls and Storm Giants. And our opponent has to play around either a counterspell and a Lightning Bolt or 2 counterspells. Which of course is possible. So now this is interesting, right? So our opponent, like, this is gonna die, so that's gonna fizzle. And that means that if I draw land, our opponent is just dead. And you should also have a couple of ley lines, like, somewhere. Alright, that's just a Snapcaster. That's not perfect. But that also means that we have lethal next turn. If our opponent chooses to not do anything. So obviously, I'm not gonna go with a Snapcaster right now. I'm probably gonna, because we're a little bit tight on mana. Our opponent could always have a counter spell here, or a persist to follow it up with. Oh. That's what I thought. Alright, so I think the play is still attack with Brazen Bar. Our opponent doesn't have the means. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 doesn't have the means to either cast an Archaeon or have a target plus creativity. I could, of course, also play the Snapcaster Mage here, but that also, okay, doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I was gonna say. We have lethal as well, of course. All right. All right, welcome to round number 4. And we're probably playing against Death Shadow here with a non-functional hand. And another non-functional hand. So, yeah, this is really, really bad. I think we can try to keep this and just ditch this one, because otherwise we can probably give up anyway. This way we at least have a Lightning Bolt for an early Ragavan and a little bit of counter magic as well if we were to draw a land here, which we don't. Let's see. Let's see. So I'm not gonna fetch. So it's a Grixis shell that's running Mushroom Bauble, but apparently is not a Death Shadow deck. Yeah, it's definitely not a Death Shadow deck. It's weird. So I'm gonna fetch for Tricolor here, because I don't want to be forced to do it down the road. So let's try to kill it first. Our opponent could have a K command, of course, to get it back. Yeah. That's what I thought. That's why I wanted to have that one open. Okay. Not yet in a good spot, but it's getting better. Ledger Shredder. So we're playing Counterspell here. See what our opponent's doing. Apparently doesn't have another threat. So it appears to be something that's somewhat similar to potentially Murktide, but Grixis Murktide or something. So that he has access to Giganta. Definitely have to be careful about that. Alright, so we're going to play the subtlety here. I believe that our opponent probably does have a Spell Pierce or a Spell Snare there. Could of course also just be Lightning Bolt, whatever. But still, he put it on top, so he, yeah, if he fetches now, that's gone, which is also okay. So it's a fail push, right? So the question is, I think our opponent definitely does have some sort of counter magic. Either Spell Snare or whatever, Spell Pierce. So the question is, or becomes, do I want to get my Snapcaster down right now? Our opponent is certainly not playing moons, so I don't have to play around that. So the most... let's play the Snapcaster. I want to have the Consider out. Be a little bit proactive here, because right now we are ahead in terms of resources. And our opponent does need... So let's assume it's a Murktide list, right? Then he either needs to plant the Murktide. Alright. Let's see if he does have another counterspell. Well, it's definitely going to be an interesting match here. No clue what our opponent's playing. It's way too aggressive to be a control deck. Yep, I'm gonna let that resolve. We have the Bloodshed Thirst, so that's fine. See if our opponent maintains the card on top. Yes, he does. Definitely wants to have that one. of which I assume it's gonna be a threat, because our opponent definitely needs to have a threat here. Yeah, it is indeed. So let's go return and discard. I think I'm gonna go with a subtlety, although the brazen borer might actually be better here. Then I can bounce it. I have 1 mana to... we still have a removal spell anyway, so it's fine. Just want to prevent him from having... Okay, it's a terminate, and that's completely fine. Oh fuck, oh no. It was my second spell, that was a mistake. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that was really bad. I sometimes forget that it's actually also counting. When he doesn't see it. So like when he's not on the battlefield, it's still seeing it. It's not the second spell that he sees, so but the second spell that's just being played. So let's deploy this one right now, so that if my opponent does have a counter spell, we're not running into it. Although it's probably also relevant. Alright. Our opponent could, of course, have a fatal push here. But I think if he does, that's still fine. Takes it. Interesting. So this is basically a Death Shadow deck without the Death Shadows, right? It's a Grixis tempo deck. Do I want to offer the trade here? I don't think so. Well, Ragavan is a pretty good one here. Thoughtseize, okay. If I lose this, it's my own fault. I should have paid more attention. Alright, still home. Well, it's a land, but it was a Hall of Storm Giants, so that would have actually been a very good draw for us as well. So any removal spell does it here. Alright, a counterspell. It's not so necessary right now for us. Okay, so play the land. And that's a lightning bolt. So I think I'm gonna play it right now, because if I play it in his turn, then he gets the trigger of the Legislator again, if he has a counterspell. Alright, we got there. But it was, I didn't play that super well, so have to be a little bit more careful. So our opponent's basically playing a Grixis tempo deck. So how do I want to board here? So he's playing a couple of 1-drops. I do want to have that. I think the Spell Pierce is very good. Terminate can probably stay in because it still trades well. I don't want to have this. I want to probably not have this either. And I think the Brazen Bars are actually also not good if our opponent's not playing Murktides, which we currently don't know, but I strongly assume, because he has to have replaced Death Shadows with something, right? If he's not playing Murktide, then let's go with this. That's the middle ground, basically. Yeah, I think I'm gonna keep this. Can get rid of a turn 1 Ragavan, and then we don't have the ability to go turn 2 Doughty, which sucks a little bit, but alright, there's a bauble. Alright, so now we actually have the ability to go turn 2 Doughty. So that actually incentivizes me to play it here and to kill the thing. Obviously, both Ragavan and the bird are a pretty good follow-up here for our opponent. Also, he's playing somewhat a couple of counter spells. Oh, that's the bird, but doesn't have any means to trigger it. Yeah, probably better. Probably better. So let's kill it first so that we don't trigger it. Because I hate going with a Snapcaster after it. Then he gets a trigger anyway. Alright, so that one will keep either, or 2 as well. And then we shall see if we can set up something here. Okay. I think... So the Doughty is actually quite important. I think we're taking the Cascade Bluffs here. So he fetches here. If we cannot counter it with the Drowned Loch, we will have the means. Yeah. I'm going to wait one more turn with the Doughty, although... The other way around will probably be better. There are currently only 3 cards in his graveyard. If I counter here, there's going to be 4 if my opponent does have any instant spell. I think it's worth it. Alright, so it doesn't have another land drop, and also doesn't appear to have the means to counter our counter here. That must mean that the rest of the cards in his hand are removal spells. And if that's the case, then I don't want to play the Dodi into it. Let's go play Snapcaster already, so that if he counters here, we're not triggering the Dodi, the Dragon Rage Chandler. Then we let that resolve. Pass a bit, and then our opponent's incentivized to play a removal spell here to trigger the Dragon Rage Chandler, and that means that that's a removal spell that our Dodi isn't eating. All right. So I think, oh damn it. The issue is that our opponent can actually play it, like, if he draws another land, he can play it for a couple of turns in a row. So I basically need to have the Dodi down. But our opponent probably does have more removal in hand. Alright, does have more removal, but it's actually a Terminate, which is quite funny. Alright, so now we actually have a counter spell, which is great. So the Croxa at least won't harm us instantaneously. And I can also get back a Snapcaster or a Dodi here. Probably want to have the Dodi though, right? I mean, Snapcaster Mage can of course return the Dodi as well. So maybe that's the better value play. And he discarded the Giganta, so his hand must be quite dope. So now I'm going to play it in response here, I think. I don't want to have it countered, nor do I want to run into like a Dash Dragavan off of the Expressive Iteration. So I'm gonna return and discard again. And then we're really looking for solutions for that. Croxa. That's gonna be a rough game. Ooh, Turak. Yeah, there's the Ragavan. Which obviously isn't such a big deal. Okay. So, we definitely want to play this right now, right? And then I can keep up Snap, Drown Loch. I don't necessarily have to tag with a Snapcaster. That will leave open the Lightning Bolt as well. So that when I counter the Croxa, then it's immediately exiled. So we're just gonna pass back here, I think. Because Dottie is so valuable right now. And if our opponent plays like a discard spell or whatever, then we can try to evade that. Alright, so if he's going for Croxa here, that might be a mistake. That might be a mistake. Alright. So now it's exiled. We don't have to worry about it anymore. We don't have to worry about additional Cruxes as well, as long as that's the case here. And if he doesn't attack with the Ragavan, I don't have to block. That means I can... okay. And that's fine too, though. Okay. Lol, what? Each opponent loses put a corruption counter on up to target one. Gain control of target creature or planeswalker until end of turn. Untap it and put a corruption counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn. Well, that's not so great. Because that will mean, like, if it does the -3 on the Dottie, then he can sack the Dottie to get back. Okay, he didn't do it. Nah, never mind. I think that would have been correct, actually. Because then he would have gotten his Croxa back into his graveyard, and then we would have really had a problem. Oh man, that's a good draw. That's a good draw. I can also play the Gaia drone by myself, by the way. Maybe that's even better. Should I just play that? I think I should. Because that protects the Kroxa in exile, which is good. We get the Gaia drone, which is also good. That also means that, you know, additional spells aren't as problematic to us. I like it. And we haven't seen... we have seen Unholy Heat, though. Yeah, we have seen that. Don't know if he still has it post-board. But we have seen the main board. Okay, a Ledger Shredder into Kroxa. Oh, it did have another Kroxa. Well, that's insane. That's quite insane. Okay. Alright, so he can play the Kroxa, of course. So does protection from permanence with so, but this just counts for this dude, right? All right. Well, anyway, we're just gonna do it. I don't know if that actually counts for me or not. I can also just kill it, I guess. See what sticks and what doesn't. Down to 5. And then now we cannot play the Kroxa, because otherwise I'm just gonna go Gaia Drone, take it, and then he's dead. Did have Unholy Heat. Fuck you. Luck, bitch. He didn't have that before. He drew that there. Also Spell Pierce. It's gonna be difficult. Our opponent's playing a weird deck. Oh my fucking lord. His draws, man. We're really holding ourselves here with tooth and needles. Yeah, alright. That's pretty much over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, I think I'm gonna bring in the Hidetsu as well. I think that's worth it. Our opponent's playing a lot of threats. Prismar is gonna go. Season Pyromancer is still okay, I guess. Okay, we have a decent starting hand with a little bit of removal and a good threat. And then from here we'll have to see where it goes. It's not such a big deal. We already have on the K commands and solutions for the other things as well. Gonna fetch for a Blood Crypt here. And then go discard and destroy. Obviously, this could lead to our opponent discarding a Croxa, but I still think it's the better play here. Alright, no Croxa in hand, which is good to know. Our opponent's playing very little stack interaction. It's mostly threats. Well, never mind. I mean, it's a threat, but... So this phases out now. I think that means that I'm gonna go with the Seasoned Pyromancer. Currently cannot play the Dottie anyway, so I'm gonna get rid of that one. And probably the Terminate. Lol. So this... Okay, he can't attack this turn. And Bloodshy Thirst still kills it unless if we draw a black source. As long as our opponent doesn't discard... Oh, Spell Pierce. Alright, so it must have other means of interaction here. I think we're just gonna go... I'm pretty sure that our opponent does have something here. Yeah. And he kept something on top as well. Let's dress down. That's not too bad though. Question is, do I want to go... after his Planeswalker? Or do I want to go after him? But I think actually... want to go after him. Might be a mistake because our opponent, of course, gets to draw an additional card each turn. We wouldn't be able to kill him here anyway. Yeah, those are two really good draws off the top here. And he put another card on top. And he'll also draw an additional card with this thing. I shall see. We still have a couple of things that we can do here. And our opponent... So let's do it like this. Snapcaster. Bloodshie's Thirst. Go after Dragon Rage Chandler. Then the creature can't be blocked, but it can block. But right now, I think we need to make the Gigantha bad and make our Dottie better. So we're just gonna attack him. Then we're gonna play the Dottie so that Croxa becomes worse. And we still have the other Season Pyromancer. So now it comes down to whether or not our opponent does find removal spell. Because otherwise, probably won't be able to beat the board. And we have both Season Pyromancers still as backup from the graveyard. And he's very limited mana as well. And Hall of Storm Giants at some point will also become active. So let's see. Alright, Ledger Shredder. But that's not going to do it by itself. And the Terminate. Alright, so Terminate is pretty good. Terminate is indeed pretty good. So now, removal spell's good. Of which we have a lot, by the way. This should do it, right? Yeah. Nope. Unless our opponent also plays Subtlety or whatever. Well, we're dealing 6, so... should be dead. Alright. Alright. Got there. 4-0. Alright, welcome to the last round for today, round number 5. We're gonna keep, because if our counter magic isn't good, then we're just gonna ditch it to the Season Pyromancer. And let me already apologize for the puns that I made today. Typically I don't really pun a whole lot, but today I feel like there were 1 or 2 situations where I could have done better. But yeah, that's just how it goes sometimes. playing against another mid-range deck that's starting off with the Blackleaf Glyphs. Well, I think I'm going to consider here, nonetheless. Our opponent's going to Mulkith's Rebirth it, but... or Feign Death, or whatever. So this is Rakdos Scam, a deck that actually has become quite popular. And a deck that we really have to play around Blood Moon with. Because they are typically playing like 2 Blood Moons in the main. And if that gets us on the wrong foot, that could of course kill us. Yeah, I thought that he's gonna take the Consider. Because we currently don't really have a whole lot of ways of getting around it. It's gonna be a slow climb. Okay, so Snapcaster is gonna be looking for some answers or another blue source so that we can have the next turn Archmage's Charm up, or we can kill the Grief. Both of which are valid options. Yeah, our opponent's already fetching for basic swamps here, so we really have to watch out for a Blood Moon. Alright, that's just a Fable, that's fine. I mean, it's not great, but it's okay. Just have a look. Okay, so we can get rid of that shit, and we can block the Goblin. I'm not saying that's perfect, but it does get us somewhere at the very least. And then, if we can ditch or evade Blood Moon this turn, then starting from next turn we have a couple of options. We can actually get into the game, otherwise we'll have to see where this really takes us, because our opponent can probably, like with the generated token from the Goblin, he can also hardcast Furies. Discard Undying Malice, but just 1 copy. So he only drew 1 card, so his hand has to be quite good. So do I want to try to block here? Our opponent seems to value this thing. We can also take it over. Let's see. Okay. I think I'm going to take over the Goblin. I think that's our best play, because that way we're pretty insulated to Blood Moon if you should play one. I could also kill both with the Snapcaster. But if he does have a Feign Death, I think it's gonna trigger, like it's coming back as Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which of course wouldn't be great as well. Let's take the 2 damage here and then see what our options are end of turn. Does he have a grief as a follow-up? Yes, he does. Oh, Seasoned Pyroman, so that's even worse. Okay. Alright, Subtlety gives us a little bit of extra play. That's actually really good. So let's go Snapcaster. I have to get rid of the Dottie because otherwise he can utilize my Archmage's Charm. And also gives us a blocker. Which obviously isn't great. But it's something. He can copy it, obviously. Snapcaster won't be enough to protect us next turn, so I'll be... So I guess I can go kill this right now. Then we can go Snapcaster, block this thing, consider, and if my opponent does have another creature, we can go Subtlety it. On the other hand, though, my opponent also does have Seasoned Pyromancer in the graveyard. But we do as well. We don't have the mana yet, though. Yeah, this is a problem. Put it on top. So the last card could of course also be like another rebirth or whatever. But that's apparently not the case. Alright, Brazen Borrower gives us a little bit of play, I think. And our opponent does have Grief on top, so he's probably gonna go with that over the Brazen Borrower, right? Over the Seasoned Pyromancer, which gives us one more turn at the very least. But we can also not fetch anymore, so we really can't draw more fetch lands. Okay, Archmage Charm also does a little bit. Damn fetch land. Let's see. Alright, so now he's just gonna go with Seasoned Pyromancer at the end of my turn. So I'm just gonna draw 2 cards here. So our Season Pyromancer can negate his Season Pyromancer if our opponent doesn't have a follow-up play. Or a removal spell. And with the Brazen Borer, we are also somewhat insulated against Blood Moon, and I can even utilize the 2 polluted deltas as well. Yeah, if our opponent does have a removal spell here, obviously that kills us. Okay, but apparently that's not the case, so we will be able to block this. Now I hope that our opponent is gonna go and just play a Fury or something. Okay, not even that. Come on, guys. No, cannot ditch that one. I wonder what our opponent actually has, because... Yeah, that's gonna kill us. That's definitely gonna kill us. I mean, we can of course discard these two, but then we have this guy on the battlefield and we won't be able to do anything else, so that's fine. Alright, so that's coming in, that's coming in. Because of Dottie, I guess I can also play these. Ludshy's first pretty bad here. Don't know if I want to maintain the Drown Loch. Probably not. And then we're going full mid-range. Brazen Borer isn't super bad. It's actually pretty decent in the matchup, but our opponent's playing Fury, and I really don't want to have my board wiped with X1s. Alright, yeah, that's alright. Perfect, it's just a Ragavan. Which means I can go Blood Crypt here. Then fetch for black. Or maybe not. I'll go with a Water Grave here. So many blue cards in hand. Yeah, now it comes down to whether or not our opponent boarded out some of his removal spells. Or he's just using a Fury here to go after our Dottie. That must mean he has... Yeah. That's a 4-4 now. Or cannot even kill that with... Oh, Lightning Bolt. Yeah, this is not gonna go well. Yeah, now also Blood Moon me, please. Yeah, a lot. Alright, so this is basically one of the best hands that our opponent could have had. We're still not completely out of it, but of course now it's looking pretty grim. We would need to find basic swamp off the top. Alright. I think that's fine. It's a 4-1 on a sleepy Sunday, so yeah. Overall, I think subtlety pretty decent here, and the deck itself has functioned quite well. Hope you enjoyed it, and see you guys around next time.